I want to talk about something and I want to be very, very clear about it. So, the messages that I have been getting from this gradually increased over the years, but this is the way I understand. Okay, the time has come when that time when people have been talking about in various ways, whether they trust on the rapture, whether they trust on ascension, whether they trust on moving to 5D, whatever language they use. Um, it is that time that there's sort of a recognition that we are in a time of change and that change is going to result in a separation of worlds. And as I understand it, everything works together. There's a great synergy in everything because God has it in hand. God is the center force, you might say, that also flows through everything. So it's both the center of all reality, and it is also the outlier because it flows through everything. The essential nature is love. It is duality that allows for life at all, for experience, because everything and nothing are opposites and they are the same, because there is no distinction. And so at this time, to get into the story, there is a separation, and the earth is going through great changes. We can call it climate change, but it's more than climate change. The topography of the earth will change. There are forces gathering under the earth as well as in the atmosphere that are going to work together. It's sort of like people on earth, and all of life on earth is in the trash compactor. And they're going to get it from both sides. This is my understanding of how it works after you've told me about it. So there is an imbalance on the earth, and because everything has to balance, energy has to find its level of stability, and the forces, the many different forces that have controlled the earth, the climate, created this very beautiful paradise for humanity. Whether they understand it's paradise or not is their problem, not mine. That has created this beautiful paradise here for life. There has come an imbalance due to what some people might call greed. What we trust is the golden idol, the idea that you are an ego, that you have to be better than other people, and often that results in you feeling worse than other people and trying to be better than other people, and it's a back and forth motion, which is unreliable, it's unstable, and it is inherently what has destabilized our world. Because in the attempt to be better than everybody else, we equate it with money often or fame. And that means you have to do more. You have to have more. And if you don't, even in the midst of this paradise, you feel like shit. Or you feel like you are better than everybody else. And we can get into all the false ideas like the idea of good and evil, and how people are facing away from the light and therefore they joust with their shadows. Um, and so they're so confused. So people are backwards. They're looking backwards, most people. So I understand it that through the ages, those people who have come to try to point a different way, we can point to Jesus, we can point to Buddha, we can point to Socrates, we can point to Marcus Aurelius, we can point to, Gandhi, we can point to, maybe not a zillion, but certainly thousands of people who have tried, and they have been killed um, by those who would shut them up because they, out of just fear that they are not the golden idol, fear that they're not good enough. In other words, we live in a world of egos and not in a world of trust on God. And therefore, through the ages, it's been hard to change the general attitude of people because they just kill anybody or cut them off at the knees who comes along to tell them that maybe it would be better to live a different way. So live in peace and harmony. And, they continue to have their wars and kill each other and etc. over, what devolves into basically killing your neighbor over a piece of bread. And so they do that in many ways. Life is cheap to them. They will destroy a woman because she's pregnant and then destroy her if she gets an abortion. So life is cheap to them. So they are cheap. Their own life is cheap to them because they feel so miserable. They don't value what God has given them, which is a duality in life. And so at this point, the earth is being destroyed. However, those people who are trusting on God, like Noah, who trusted on God, he's the prime example, of course. And so we use building boats as the metaphor for listening to the voice inside and listening to God outside, however you want to look at it, because it's a duality, and building boats. So our group is building a boat to float through the crisis, and we're listening to God who's telling us what to do and how to do it. Not just God, but others heaven side who are our companions. So for those of us in the group, it's a question of looking to the magic, you might say, and not to the hellfire. And so in this endeavor, we understand that there's some rules, basic rules. One is what you give, you shall receive. So the easiest thing to give every day is to say, God, what a beautiful day. You give appreciation. And then it appreciates, it grows. God gives you another beautiful day. And you say, I love you, and you get, I love you back. So whatever you give, you get back. So just be prepared to get back whatever you give. And if you say to someone, you're a shithead, then be prepared for someone someday to say you're a shithead to you. And then you say, thanks. Hey, it works. And that's the way it does work. And so if you just want to live in peace and harmony, you just give what you would receive, which of course Jesus tried to tell people, and modern Christians today do not get that. And so they want to destroy the ones who tell them that, because they actually are reincarnated from that era, and they were the ones that stood by or crucified Jesus. And so they assert the role of the Savior, so to speak, by leading people into the darkness and forcing them to face into the dark. If anybody turned to the light, they would torture them, kill them, do whatever they had to silence them. And so now has come the time when there is enough people on earth who have turned to the light, that is, have turned back and said, well, God is real. I'm going to trust on God. And I'm not talking about the people actually who are trying to incorporate this into some kind of physical understanding, because physicality is a metaphor for reality, the ultimate profound reality, which cannot be understood because you can't stand under the totality because you're not big enough, let's say, and you can't comprehend it. God can't comprehend God because God can't be bigger than God. And so we have this situation where we just are here doing the best we can. So enough people have said, well, I'm not going to joust with the shadows. I'm going to turn around and face the light. And because enough people have gone through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to grow, you might say, gradually, because you can't stay the same. Groundhog Day. You can go through it 1,000 times. Eventually, you begin to get it. That love is the way. So there's enough people who've done Groundhog Day enough to understand that we have to come back together. And God is in control, of course. So when they turn to God, God guides them. And when they turn away from God, of course, they're in the dark and they're jousting with shadows and fighting each other. And so my understanding is that at this point, the energy is gathered in such a way that the earth is going to go through this change and that it is going to be devastated. And for many, many years, 1,000 years before some glimmer of hope comes back for the earth as a whole. Nevertheless, there will be pockets where there is stabilized energy, where those people who turn to God can gather and live in peace and harmony because God will guide them to the safe spots on the earth. There will be safe spots, you might say. They'll still have to work hard. They'll still have to change their entire society and the way they live, but the others will go away. And so what happens is that there is a separation of worlds in that the others that go away will reincarnate, of course, but they will have to reincarnate into very, very dark and dreary locations because that's what they left behind them. And that's what they chose. That's what they gave to others. And the ones who trusted on God will be led to the safe places and they will become the core of the new humanity because the ones that are in these dreary places will have such a difficult time surviving and they will no longer be able to trust on the old time traditions, the old time religions, etc., because they won't save them. They might, I don't know, would they devolve into cannibalism and all that kind of crap? I don't know. Sacrifices, human sacrifices, I don't know. Possibly because there will not be the leavening of those who have turned to God. And so they will turn to the quote gods, which are really the demons in their, they've got it twisted backwards. Not that there really are demons, but it's just the backwards understanding, fighting your shadows become your demons. Because when you reach out to strike them, they reach out to strike you. And so you get what you give, but you can't figure it out because you're just jousting with your own shadow. And when you turn to the light, then you get something new. It's not just your shadow, it's always new and vital and creative because the light is creative and not just same old, not just Groundhog Day. And so, what I'm understanding is that now we are actually taking heaven and earth, which have been separated for so long, and we are reuniting them so that people can begin to understand those people who turn to God anyway and who are guided to the safe places can find a way to live in peace and harmony, and they will become the seed of the new humanity. So at this time, all people have to make a choice. And of course, in our little group, people have made a choice to trust on God and to trust on those heaven side, to trust on heaven, to trust on the wonder and all the possibilities that are offered by a reunion with God. Those people who choose to turn away from this because the light frightens them and they can't bear the possibility that magic is really possible in the world, so to speak. We'll call it magic, but what we're just talking about is creative energy that creates in new ways. They can't bear that thought because they have to cling to the old ways and they are afraid of the light. And so as we, like in our group, continue, we are putting together heaven and earth to create a new blend. So, in other words, heaven would be one could be hot, earth could be cold, or earth could be hot and heaven could be cold, whatever, in terms of absolutes, the swing of the pendulum. And when the pendulum swings wildly from one to the other, it does feel like hell and heaven, are greatly separated. The earth could be hell, even though it's a paradise. And so there is this new way of living where heaven and earth are merged in different ways. So you could still have the old earth, you could still have the old heaven, but you can have a new blend of, we'd call it blending hot and cold to get warm. You could have a new blend of heaven and earth because if you turn back to the light and enough people gather who give what they would receive, And when they receive it, they say, whatever they get, they know that they deserve. So if someone says, you're a shithead, they say, yep, thank you for confirming that because I deserve it. And then they'll just laugh and go on with their life because they know they deserved it because they probably called somebody a shithead or did something equivalent. And so no big deal. No big deal. And so they will live in peace and harmony and they will face the light. And so creativity will come to them. God will push them a little way and say, why don't you do this? Why don't you take this plant and do this with it? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? This has been happening all along, of course, because look what has happened on the earth. Great creativity. However, that creativity has been met with what we'll call greed, the desire to be the golden idol and to stand above everybody else and stand on their head. And so the world split because, you can't, uh, it just becomes a time when people have to evolve. And evolution is due to cooperation, not competition, which of course, I either intuited it or God told me that long ago, that it's wrong. Those people who think that evolution is due to competition do not understand the nature of cooperation. They do not understand that a group of humans working together, cooperating, are an evolution, and one person competing with another is not. That the cooperation in packs of animals, groups of animals, is a delight of evolution. The single-celled creature to the multi-celled creature requires great cooperation. And so they cooperate with God. And if you cooperate with God, then God will cooperate with you. If you try to compete with God, well, sorry for you, because you're just cutting off your own nose to spite your face. And so at this time, the big lesson for all of humanity is that you're going to have to go away, but you will have to reincarnate. So what are you going to reincarnate if you failed the test? You start over again because in the big cycles, in a little, you might call a lifetime to a lifetime a little cycle, but a big cycle might be in the soul energy, just like, every 26,000 years or whatever, there's a big cycle pertaining to earth energies. And so at the time of separation, they will just go to heaven, but then they'll have to deal with the specter of reincarnation in a planet that has been devastated or in some gruesome way in another planet. And that is the issue today. It's just a matter of growth or non-growth. Those who are self-selected, you might say, although it's hard to say self-selected because we don't even know how that works. But those who are part of those who will work cooperatively and thus evolve will be protected because they will work cooperatively with God. Those who choose not to cooperate with God, they want to control God. They want to say to me, for example, if God is talking through me, God wouldn't say that. God wouldn't say that. I know it. And they already know exactly what God would say. So they can't cooperate with God. They expect God to be their slave and to do what they tell God to. And so they do not know how to evolve. They do not know how to work cooperatively. So this is how I'm understanding it today, the current situation. One thing you forgot to say is that every day you wake up and say to yourself, hey, thank God I am here. Thank God I am here because you are here. Wherever you are here. And therefore, if you hear what I say, it is because you are here. If you do not hear it, it's because you're not here. And if you're here and you turn away, Then it says to God, God, fuck you, because I don't want to hear what you have to say. I just want to turn away. And so those who say, thank God I'm here. Thank God I'm here to hear you say, I love you and I will give you what you give to me. If you give me gratitude for everything I do for you, then I will give you gratitude for everything you do for me. And therefore, I will give to you the world renewed. I will give you the world renewed every day in a good way, because that is the world you gives to me when you say, hey, look at that, look at that, look at that bird flying in the sky. Isn't it neat? And I say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me give you more surprises that will fascinate you. But if you say, God, I hate my life today. Oh man, this is awful. Then I will say, well, go away, because you do not value what I have given to you. And now I'm giving to you a lesson too, in reality. Because the lesson I'm giving to you is that you are the voice of the new nation under God. The voice of the new nation under God. Those who are here and say to me, God, I hear what you say today, and I am here, are the ones who are the ears of the new nation under God. And the ears of the new nation under God will become the ones who wipe away their tears and live through the years in peace and harmony, while the others who went away, who turned away, I'm sorry, because they heard me say, this is the way, will have to go it alone, because I will not protect them, because they did not appreciate what I gave to them. They only loved the gold, you see, and the gold is cold. And I didn't give them the gold, you see. I didn't give them the casket made of gold. All I gave them was the world that they gave to me, which has turned to ashes because they trusted that I had turned to ashes, that all they had to do was hold up that bottle and say, I got God in this bottle today, and my God would not talk like this. My God would not talk like this. My God would never say, hey, you will receive what you give. My God would never say, you have fouled my world, and now you must go away. My God would never say, play nice with others and they will play nice with you. My God would never say, I love you. My God would say, do what I tell you to, or you're gonna fry in hell. And so, if that's what your God would say, then that's the way you play. Be well, my children, if you are here and you can hear what I say. Thank you, God, today. You're welcome, dear.